Engine 1 from car 1. Car 1's on scene. If you've been command, give me a C.A.N report.
Nozzle Tov, everybody. It's Mike Goldstein of the C.A.N Report coming at you with another episode, this time an in-house, in-person. I've got Will Thalheimer, a good friend of mine and a coworker. He's a lieutenant on Derry, and I'm excited to have him today on my show. He's going to have a lot of good stuff to bring to us this evening. So, Will, welcome to the C.A.N Report.
Thank you very much for having me. As you just mentioned, my name is Will Thalheimer. I work for the Derry Fire Department, where I currently serve as a company officer and lieutenant at Station 3. I've been in the fire service for about 12 years now, approximately about 11 of those years as a career firefighter. Started off as a volunteer for Dunbarton. I worked my first full-time job in the Belmont Fire Department and quickly lateraled down to where I work down in Derry.
Fantastic. All right. It's quite the resume you got there.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So, Will, so you also are a lieutenant on Derry. You're pretty damn good at that job.
Oh, thank you.
You and I, we've traveled a lot more together. We did New York. We've done Massachusetts. We did the New England Fools training in Massachusetts. What was that? Probably 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, a little while ago. Yeah.
Almost 2 years ago. And then we did the Lieutenant Joey D down in Long Island.
That was a good time.
That was a great time. So you do a lot with Derry for their training. You are the prime person to do all the recruit training.
Yes. So yeah, I'm our department recruit school coordinator. So I put together all of our employee onboarding for the Derry Fire Department. I've been involved in that probably 4 or 5 years. I inherited the program from some tremendous people. Our Captain Ed King, he ran it before me, as well as now retired Sean Beinhauer before him. They really laid down the groundwork for me to take over the program. But, you know, since then, I've kind of taken it and run with it and put my little spin on things and try to expand it, make it better for the next guy.
Cool. Now, when you say you put your own little spin on it, what is it that you do? What is it that makes you stand out? What is it that you like to bring to the recruits to really help them understand where, you know, what the expectations are? What is it that you make different than the other people?
I think it's really important to lay down and lay out basically what it is to be a Derry firefighter. When I look at employee onboarding and running a recruit school, it's less so about technical competency and skill development as it is laying out cultural expectations, making sure that people understand that we take our values as an organization extremely seriously, how we interact with the public, and carrying ourselves to a high professional standard as we go out and deliver services for the community. So with that said, yes, we still cover all your basic competencies with post-deployment and search and VEIS, vehicle extrication. We do cover a lot of those hard skills. Those are very important and the foundation of what we provide for the town of Derry. But it's also just making sure that they understand what is a Derry firefighter. And that is someone that carries themselves with excellence, professionalism, integrity, and compassion as they go out and deliver the mission of the organization.
How did you get into that? Like, did you volunteer to do it? Did you was this like the position opened up and you're like, I want to be charge of doing the recruits. I love training and I love inspiring all the new people to come in. I want to do this. I want to have this responsibility. Or was it more of like, we need somebody to do something, and then you just kind of, it fell into your lap? Or was this something that you just were really passionate about?
I was bottom of the barrel. No, I've always been interested in training. Captain King was a huge mentor of mine, and still is to this day. He's an incredible company officer, and I had the pleasure of working with him. But how actually I originally got to know him was in Scouts. So I'm an Eagle Scout. I worked at Griswold Scout Reservation here in New Hampshire for 5 summers. During that time, like all throughout my scouting history and career, I was always involved in like the scouting version of training, which is, teaching and educating, whether it's ropes and knots or, everything, implementing the EDGE method of education with all the young scouts below you. And it just kind of tied very naturally into the fire service side of things. Because
I noticed a lot of scouts, people who've done like Eagle Scouts or spent at least a good amount of time in being a Boy Scout, they seem to gravitate towards the fire service.
yeah, I mean, I'd say so. I haven't really kept too in tune with the current climate with in Scouting of America, I believe is what's called now. It was Boy Scouts of America when I was in. And but I know that that's like a huge foundation of what the organization stands for. Boy Scouts is developing good citizens for America. That's basically what it is. And so they do that through character development and leadership development with outdoor education and camping and all that kind of stuff. And a big part of that is instilling in them, like, I guess, a little bit of sense of like patriotism and public service and higher calling and being leaders in your community. And so I think that's why you see a lot of Eagle Scouts, like a lot of them end up going the military or public service track.
Sure. Now, what motivated you to become a firefighter?
I did not originally believe that I wanted to be a firefighter growing up. It's actually, honestly, never anything that I thought about doing. Thought I was going to turn 17 and just go right off the bat and join the military. That's all I ever really cared about. It's all I ever wanted to do. And then right around like 17, 18, like my mom was like, hey, why don't you spend some time back home before you go off and enlist? And I started volunteering at the Dumbarton Fire Department, and I just fell in love with the fire service. I originally joined the fire service because I heard about these things called USAR teams, and I wanted to crawl in rubble and go look for bodies. Like, that's what I wanted to do. But yeah, like then I was like, oh, I guess I need to become a firefighter to do that. And I just ended up falling in love with it. And so I really knew nothing about the fire service coming in. I knew absolutely nothing. So I've gone through a huge growth period in the early parts of my career because everything was new to me. I didn't.
Did you take the recruit class? Did you come and do you take the part-time Fire 1 and Fire 2? Or?
No, I went through, got my basic EMT through Dunbarton, and then I started going to LRCC, commuting there from Dunbarton, and got my Fire 1, Fire 2, and CPAT my first year at LRCC because I've always been a pretty driven, goal-oriented person. I knew that's what I needed to get a job. So my goal of going to school was to get a job. And so by the end of my first year, I never heard of live-in programs. And so all of a sudden I was going to school with all these people in live-in programs. So I was like, I need to get on one of those. And so that first summer after school, I was scrambling to find a live-in program that would take me as a quote unquote senior at LRCC. And the only people that would take me was Belmont Fire Department. And by the end of the summer there, I was working there full time. So I dropped out of school, was working full-time there. Since then, I've continued my education, completed my associate's degree in fire science, and ended up turning that into a bachelor's degree in public service management.
That's great. And you've done well for yourself. That's quite an adventure. Leading up the recruit class here for Derry Fire, you really hit on making sure that line of duty deaths are spoken about. You're making sure that people aren't forgotten, but also that the lessons aren't forgotten. You really do focus a lot on that. And where did you get the motivation or inspiration to bring that into the recruit program?
Well, through Scouting Network, when I was first entering into the fire service, because I'm also what's called a vigil member of the Order of the Arrow. It's the honor society and scouting.
Is there a special handshake?
There is a special handshake, and I get a cool sash. But yeah, no. So I'm a vigil member of the Order of the Arrow, and another vigil member is Rick Mason, the former director of the New Hampshire Fire Academy. So he got me involved with the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation really early on, and brought me down to the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Weekend, where they honor the sacrifice and the lives of every firefighter that died the previous year in the country, and also connect the surviving families with the resources that they need to cope with their grief. So it's a very big weekend. It's Like for the staff that are involved, it's a week-long event, but the families themselves, it's a 3-day weekend, and they go down there and go through essentially a whole grieving process together with other surviving families. So in that venture and becoming involved in the command staff down there, I got to see the impact of what it is when someone dies in the line of duty. And the fire service is very unique because everything that we do is written in the blood of the people who have come before us.
That's profound, man. That's deep.
Yeah.
That's real deep. But you're not wrong, right? Like that's I think it's a great way to look at it. I think it's important that we have that mindset that you just nailed it. Like it's written in blood. Like everything that we've done, every NFPA, every guideline, there's a reason for it. And it's so important that we're not forgetting the lessons learned, the lives lost, and why we do what we do. That this absolutely is 100% accurate. And I think it's a great mindset to have. And I love that you bring that to the recruits, because I mean, we get a lot of laterals on our department, and some know it and some don't. But we're getting the younger generation in. And it's something that's not usually taught in the academies, right? At least for ours, right?
Briefly brush over it and say, hey, read NOSH reports, but they don't get into the nitty gritty of it.
True. And they do a good job. Like I was at the academy just last week, and Instructor Welch, he actually does a really good job with making sure that the recruits are actually doing their homework on line of duty deaths, and they have to give a brief report of if there is a most recent one, like the one that just happened in New York, right? And one of the cadets had to stand up and give a report of the line of duty death and what occurred and what the events led up to it. They are doing a better job with it. I think with the instructors who are passionate about it, like yourself and the others that are out there that make sure that we're not forgetting those lessons learned, is like they are lessons. It sucks that it's a lesson that's cost somebody's life, but it is a valuable lesson that we have to make sure that people are knowing. And so you bring that to the recruits there. Is there certain topics of those line of duty deaths? Do you have a certain one that you bring to them, or?
Yeah, no, there's a variety, and anyone listening, like I'm not going to pretend to be some expert on all these different deaths, because I'm sure there's people out there that know them better than I do. But I tried to bring to light, some of the key ones that have always stood out in my career. For example, on day 8 of our recruit school, we usually cover a window bailout. So, an easy one there is Black Sunday. When you get into search, safety, survival, and RIT, there's the Brett Tarver incident out of Phoenix, Arizona. And there was a lot of lessons learned from RIT there. When we get into day 4 with host deployment and fire attack, like there's the Back Bay fire down in Boston with Lieutenant Kennedy and Wall. Yeah. When you get into also again into search on day 3, you got Lieutenant Jason Bernard down in Worcester, Massachusetts in 2019. Same thing with search and being lost and disoriented, Christopher Roy in Worcester, Massachusetts in 2018. So there's some really good lessons learned, ones in our area that apply directly to us, but anywhere in the country, all these line of duty deaths, it doesn't really matter where it is. So you pull up a photo where the incident happened, and all that kind of stuff, and I can almost guarantee you I can find that building in Derry.
Yeah.
It's very rare. Like obviously we don't have high rises and all that crazy stuff.
So we don't have brickstone like the Back Bay fire.
Yeah, we don't have that, but we have buildings that have walkout basements.
Yep.
That could be wind driven. So anyways, those are some of the key ones that I like to point out. And there's probably a few others, usually spur of the moment.
Now, for the curriculum that you come up with, that's pretty much you, right? Like you had a template, but then you are obviously creating your own. When I see you're building your own, you're constantly evolving it, which I love about you, is that you're always looking for new ways. You can't remain stagnant, and you're always evolving your curriculum for the recruits and for anybody. So that way we're always developing new tactics and new ways, and we're not stuck in the rut of this is the way we've always done it. And I think it's so valuable that like you and I think we click so well is because we both love going to trainings. We both love to go outside of our own zip codes and actually do some outside training. and get some outside resources to better ourselves and to better our department when we bring it back. And I've noticed that with your curriculum that you build for Derry, you definitely do a great job of introducing new ways and instructing the students to have an outside thinking mentality. And is it just something you learned, or as you're growing, like what prompted you to actually start learning outside of your area code?
I mean, I don't know everything.
Yeah,
I really don't. I never will. I recognize that, hey, there's some things I might bring something to the table. Like, I'm sure there's things that I know that others don't. But with that said, I know for a fact that everyone knows something I don't. And so I really think it's important to go outside your area, just because there's so much going on in the country right now. Like my understanding of like fire behavior and attack and all that kind of stuff and water mapping and hose, it's drastically changed in the last even 3 years.
absolutely.
Because there's just constantly new data coming out. There's some incredible resources and research being done by companies like UL, Underwriters Laboratory, where they're constantly doing studies and actually getting scientific data to back up how and why we're performing different tactics. Some of it's confirmation of why we're doing things the way we do it. And it's like actually using science to back it up. And some of it's like, hey, like we actually need to change how we're thinking about this. And here's why. So yeah, like there's some incredible ones on there. Like their ULs, like they got their free basement fire class, and they got another free one on residential search and fire attack, where they do a bunch of things, and it's all online. It's free. It's good. Another really good resource out there is the Firefighter Rescue Survey that's been booming in the last few years, and some of the data that's been coming out of that, they're at like 4,000 data points that they're using.
Yeah, Basil Ibrahim, he took that over, and he's now making sure he's getting that data in. And anytime he's been a good resource now, because anytime he sees anything online that somebody's talking about grabs or doing VIS and making a rescue from there, or a Mayday or something like that, he's like, I need that data. Like, reach out to me. He's making sure that he's reaching out to people.
That's a grassroots movement.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's so cool and underutilized. So like something that I've completely changed my perspective on search with a lot of that stuff, where I'm like, hey, we're way more effective than we think we are. I was brought in, I entered the fire service right as there was the big push of the whole survivability risk profiling. Like that was all I heard drummed into me for years and years. And now it's becoming like the pendulum's starting to swing a lot towards, well, hey, like there's still survivable space in there.
Yeah.
You just need to go find it. So it's just interesting and it's actually really cool to be part of the fire service. And if you're an observant person and you take that time to be like introspective about your career and all that stuff, and you pay attention to the trade magazines, Fire Engineering, Firehouse magazine, and follow all these different, a lot of them free resources and fire conferences, like you can see the shift.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to be part of it.
Speaking of fire engineering, I'll bring that up real quick. You were published in Fire Engineering.
Yes, I have had a couple articles published. I had one feature article in Fire Engineering magazine. That was really cool, like actually get it in print and all that kind of stuff. I wrote about, for that, I wrote about single family homes that have been converted into multifamily dwellings. And then I also had an online piece. It was through Fire Engineering, but it's like kind of their like co-magazine thing, which is Firefighter Nation or Firefighter Rescue Magazine. That was a little online piece on duplex fires. That actually got me onto Fire Engineering's podcast, where we talked about duplex fires for like half an hour. That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You did one on elevators? Did you do that?
No. Those are my only two. That's okay. All I've ever done. And like, I would love to get back into it, but I also want to make sure I'm putting out good information.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's pretty cool. So what sparked you to start writing those articles?
I had a really good mentor and company officer who had written for GEMS, Todd Donovan, and he just looked at me one day, and because I was like, I was talking about something, And he said, you need to write. I was like, at the time, I was like 7-year firefighter. I was like, hey, I'm not in that kind of voice, where I should be writing or whatever. And he's like, no. Like, the thing that separates people is a skill that you have, which is you need to be able to take what's in your head and put it on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And then that separates people. When you have that, you should start writing. So I wrote my duplex paper or article. I sent it in just looking for feedback, and they were like, hey, we're going to publish this next month. And I was like, whoa. And so I was like, okay, well, like, hey, I'll try writing a 2,000 word article. So that one took me about, it's a lot of work. It was about a year from starting to write it to publish. It was a year process, because you write it, you send it in, it's peer reviewed when it gets into like the featured level. So it's got to go before a board of review, where you got like structural engineers and stuff like that are like directly giving you feedback on it. You make adjustments, you send it back in.
Gotcha.
Kind of stuff. So it was like a year start to finish to get an article published.
Oh, it's intensive.
Yeah.
And you stuck with it.
Yeah, it was a really good learning experience. Yeah. As cool as it was to like write it and share things that I allegedly know, it was also really good to take the time to make sure you actually knew it.
Yeah. So the information's vetted.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's quite an accomplishment. A lot of people want to write, but it's pretty darn difficult to do it, and you did it.
Yeah, to have the discipline. I was in school at the time, so like working on my bachelor's degree, so it was pretty easy for me to like develop verbal diarrhea on paper.
So you done that. You when we teach together now. You've been it's been fantastic working with you, and you invited me in to help out with the recruits and to see what you bring to them. I always listen to you, and you talk about, leaving better than you found it. And you just don't say it. You've been doing it. It's easy for people to talk about it, right? Like they just, leave it better than you found it. And then you see them sitting on the recliner, or like not, crashes on the floor, not our department. I'm just saying in general that there's just people that they talk about that with the newer people, but they don't really live it, and they don't really do it with them, and kind of the say it, do as I say, not as I do mentality. But you've really preached that with them. And I think they see you doing it. And I think that helps to give that buy-in. And I think you've really helped create a positive culture within the department from what I've seen, because you inspired me to educate myself more. And I think the new recruits, you challenge them to actually think, which has really inspired me to know more about you, is that you're very well-read. You constantly are educating yourself, but then you just don't hoard that knowledge, and you're constantly bringing that to the newer people and to people who've already been there. And that's why the biggest thing I noticed is that you are always pushing the younger generation to think, to read, to look up this information. You give them that, you plant the seed. And Don Sapp, I got to meet him in Georgia, and the biggest takeaway that I got, and that dude's been around for a long time. He's seen a lot of good stuff. He's somebody who's incredibly humble and knowledgeable. And the biggest takeaway I had from him was plant the seed, and you have to let them grow. And you're doing that with everything you're doing. You're planting that seed and letting people grow. So what is it for the future that you want to see, not even just for our department, but like as the future grows and generations of firefighters, like what is it that you would like to see happen? Or what is it that you are having any kind of intent to see?
Industry-wide or in department?
Just generalists, yeah. Whatever you're most passionate about. What do you want to see continue to build? Or
I want to see a generation of mentors come up.
I like it.
Because I think that I know statewide right now, the fire service is been hit really hard with a whole slew of retirements. And so that's really left a lot of institutional knowledge that has left the industry. And so it's really up to the next generation to take over that knowledge. And I think most importantly is not only do they need to take that over, but they need to lay down a better path for the people behind them. And they need to take the time to mentor the people behind them.
That's spot on, man. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I love it. We always need it.
Yeah.
That's the thing about the fire service. We're always going to need mentors. We're always going to need somebody that is, or not just somebody, multiple people to constantly be there for others. Again, I'll revert back to being at the academy just last week, and I got to spend just a few hours with these recruits from the LRCC program, the Lakes Region Community College. And we were doing something real simple. We're teaching them how to start a generator, teaching them how to plug in scene lights. I'm teaching them about OS and Y. This is just, mundane, like basics of basics. And they absorb that information. They're really receptive of it, but I had downtime because, let's face it, it's a generator. Like, I showed them how to put fuel in it. I showed them how to check the oil. I showed them how to start it. And we had some downtime, and instead of talking about generators, I talked to them about, how to get the job. What do you all want to be firefighters? And they all said, yes. Where do you want to go? And they all told me the respective departments they're looking to join. I said, do you know how to do it? And they said, no. I said, well, let me tell you some secrets. Not necessarily secrets, but let me tell you how to actually, if you want the job, you're going to have to go out and get it. And you're going to have to do your homework, and you're going to have to educate yourselves on those respective departments, read up on their collective bargaining agreements, make sure you're reading those union contracts, make sure you're studying the demographics. When you go into the oral board process, you stand before them, you shake everybody's hand, you ask to be seated. And then when that's done, have some follow-up questions. When they ask you, do you have any questions for us? Just don't say, no, I'm good, because that shows you really don't give a shit. But actually ask some questions. How did I do? What could I have improved on?
Yeah, I think that's really important, like that kind of mentorship that you shared there, because I see it across the board where it doesn't matter, choose your topic. People will be like, well, these guys don't know, they're not putting the effort or whatever. But I've had this conversation with a lot of people because it's how I view it, and I ask myself the same question all the time, which is, what did you do to show them? What did you do to teach them?
Yeah.
Is that a them problem? Because I'm sure, yes, there are those cases that it is a them problem. Absolutely. Those cases exist.
Those do.
But before you get to that, you need to ask yourself, is it a you problem?
100%.
Is this a, I did not take the time? I don't know, making up a statistic here, I'm going to say 9 out of 10 times it's a you problem.
Yeah.
No, you know what? This guy doesn't know that because I failed. Because I, as a company officer, I, as a mentor, I did not take the time to show this person the skill set.
Yep.
I did not lay out good. Yeah. I did not lay out a good expectation.
Yeah. And that's what I felt for them is when I was talking to them, a couple of them said that was probably the best information I've gotten so far. And it's just that little coaching, that little mentorship of an hour of actually being real with them. It's the same thing we have to do in our firehouse, is give them our expectations, let them know that this is what I want to see from you on a daily basis. This is what I want you to work on. I mean, hell, man, even polishing shoes, some of these kids, and then I say kids because I'm 46 now, but they haven't done that yet. They've literally gone from recruit, the college program, right to a job, and they haven't actually lived life yet. They haven't done any of that. And now it's our job to mentor them.
Yeah. It's not their fault. It's not their fault, right?
Absolutely not.
Because I was there, you were there, and so don't be arrogant and assume you never were.
100%.
Take the time to show them. Whether it's I'll be honest with you, there's been some recruits that have started off where it's Luke, how do I do a load of laundry? That's a simple life skill, and you know what? It's not entirely their fault. So rather than focusing on that being a problem, you need to focus on being part of the solution, which is you need to take up the mantle, show the next generation, take the time to show them and be a good example for them and be there, because they'll come to you if you make yourself available, and then you can really help show them the way.
I love it. It was one of the biggest things that my takeaway from doing the recruit program when I started, when you were talking to us, was when you walk into that door, all of you walk into that door together. If you meet each other in the parking lot, and then you walk in through that station door together as a team. And that was probably the biggest thing I remembered from you. And that really hit home to me was, well, damn, he's right. We're in this together. Currently, right now, we are a team.
We do everything together.
We're doing everything together.
Everything.
And it never dawned on me. And I really enjoyed how you put that. And so when I get to help with the recruit class and I see them coming and staggering, one after another, that's the first thing I'll tell them. Coming together, show that you're a team, get each other's numbers, make sure you're texting each other. Because when I ask you, where's so-and-so, why are you here and why is he not here? If you go, I don't know, because you never bothered to ask him, you don't have his number, you're not developing that teamwork, that brotherhood right there. So that was my biggest takeaway, honestly, from learning from you, was to be a team, to be accountable for one another. And that was your mentoring me. That was my biggest takeaway. And like I said, like you said earlier, I don't know everything. You don't know everything. I don't know everything. And I didn't come into the department going, I know everything. You can't teach. I'm unteachable. The fact that you laid that information on me, I was like, wow, that was really good, solid information. I took a lot out of that. I never got to say it to you, and I really appreciated that.
No, that's the first time I heard you say that. Yeah. Everything in the recruit school has a purpose behind it.
Yeah.
Everything. I don't waste any time.
But we don't have much time to waste.
Yeah, no, I eat it all up. I take every second, and there's a purpose behind every ounce a second. So it's like, something like that. It seems really stupid, really simple, but I'm establishing, crew integrity. Like, you should feel weird.
Integrity.
You should feel weird if you're by yourself. This is a team sport. We do everything together, conquer every challenge. Like, you come to my firehouse, my crew, it's like I don't care how stupid the task is, we do it together.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I love that mindset. So we got to do some training together. Well, not some. We've been doing a lot of training together lately. I mean, we were doing an in-house training, you and me and Fung at the Station 3 doing hose deployments. We did the recruit program up at Concord, advancing hose lines. You did a really good segment on, and I'll try to play it when I edit this. Hopefully I'm getting better at that. But we did a hose advancement training, and you were showing them how to flow downstairs. And it was actually really great instructional content that you gave, not only for them, but for everybody else. And that's why I shared it, because how you laid it down, you were smooth, you're calm, you're collective, you broke it down really easily. And I really enjoyed what you had to say and how you presented it. I posted on there because I wanted everybody to learn from it. And I think the most difficult part is when anybody is trying to post instructional content, whether it's advancing a hose line, whether it's cutting someone out of a car, or flowing downstairs, flowing upstairs, there's always going to be somebody who is just going to have something negative to say about it. And for me was, when I noticed it, was somebody made a comment of, that's horrible training.
The worst.
This is a horrible drill. You're not, train like you're going to fight. He's not wearing a mask. He's not wearing a pack. He's not doing this. He's not doing that. And it was literally that video clip is only like a 30-second clip of you talking and then flowing.
And I'm going to quite literally sit on the line, and I'm going to be riding it down the stairs. Okay? I'm going to go down step by step, feeling with the leg in front of me, the step below me, as I progress down. And I want to flow and get good surface cooling as I enter into that chimney. Because I want to make sure that this whole area, this whole chimney is getting actively cooled as I'm going into it. So I sit down my hose line, my leg is between my thigh and my calf, and I'm going to open up and start flowing, moving down.
And it was so informational, but that one person, he didn't get anything out of it. He literally just got the fact that you're not wearing a mask.
Yeah. And you're not going to reach everybody.
Yeah.
Right? That's one of the downsides of social media. Is that, with everything with TikTok and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just guilty as everyone else is. If you think you're not guilty, you're wrong. But everyone only ever sees the 30-second clip or the minute clip, right? They don't see the instruction that led up to that, or the discussion of basement fires, or like the topic of how, hey, that this isn't a go-to technique because you know what, if we can hit the basement fire on the same level, we're going to do that. This is a crap, I have no other option technique, right? They miss out on all that kind of stuff, and so it's just an absence of information. And also too with social media is that the haters are the loudest, The naysayers are the loudest, and it's really unfortunate. But I also kind of want to hit up on a point you brought up there too, where there people were, I've seen on plenty of other videos out there where people are like, hey, train how you play, all this kind of stuff. And there's a big movement of that on the social media side of the fire service. And a lot of it, it's all just noise. And it's too bad, because I feel that people get training and doing roll-up drills completely confused. They don't understand that training and education needs to be the majority of what you do, and that will lead up to doing your drills in the fire ground. Because if we just train how we play every single time, if all we do is blacked out conditions and full PPE and on air, and you just, and I've seen this at trainings, and you just throw people in, the entire training ends up losing its purpose. And is there value in it? Absolutely. Should it be done? 100%. Do we all need to be doing it? Absolutely. But to lead up to that, you do need to have the time where, hey, maybe we're going to go over this skill set in just our bunker pants, because I don't want you being focused on all that other distractions of what's going on. I want you to focus on how are you holding onto this hose.
The crawl, walk.
Yeah, like where is your knees position?
Yeah.
And if you're going through the evolution and you have all these other distractions and, noise blaring and saws going off and all this kind of stuff, you're taking from the learning and educational environment for that recruit. So it's, we're going to work our way there. Yes, we are going to do 1 or 2 realistic, full dressed up drills, but to get there, I need all this foundation, and you got to lay out that foundation first. And so it's too bad that there's so many people pushing from that, because I think it's with great intentions. It's probably because they come from organizations that don't drill at all, right? And all they ever do is, talk in the back of a parking lot flowing a hose stream, right? And that's not okay either. But it has its time and its place. But I think it's a lot smaller than what most people realize. You're talking about, if I'm going to do 10 hours of training, well, 1 hour is going to be actual drilling. It's going to be 9 hours. Like, what was that, Abraham Lincoln? If you give me 10 hours to cut down a tree, I'm going to spend the first 9 sharpening my axe.
And you're absolutely right, man. And I love that quote, man. I can't believe you just pulled that out of your anus on that one. That's good. You're absolutely right. And I think that people do forget that. And that's like, I had made a comment in that, like, I literally had said that this is a crawl, walk, run method that we're doing. Like, you don't understand that, one, it was really cold out. The metal floors are frozen from us flowing water. They've never done this method before. We've got to teach them the basics of actually moving so we don't hurt them. Mm-hmm. Because then if we just, like you said, it
was a cold day.
It was a very cold day, man.
We're a rain or shine operation.
But you're absolutely right. And then, like, God forbid, like, we just throw all the gear on them, put them on air, and say, okay, I want you to just how I did it. Well, now we've created this training scar, because it's either they're going to hurt themselves or they're going to screw it up. And all they remember is how cold and miserable it was, because we just threw them in the gear and told them to do it, and they've never done it before. And we've gotten so much better at that, actually, in the fire service world, where we've really learned to develop, like, you got to get down to basics. You need to develop that foundation to build upon it. And then you can introduce the stress. Then you can introduce the noises.
Yeah. And it's funny is on the other end of the spectrum, I've heard some education theorists, when it comes to this kind of stuff, talk about how we shouldn't do any stress inoculation, and that, like not yelling and screaming as in like demeaning, but yelling and screaming to raise the stress level,
right,
doesn't have a place in the training ground, or playing the loud music or the saws doesn't have a place. And I'm like, I don't agree with that either. I think it does have a place. Yeah. It's just, it's the right time, the right place, based off of the skills, capability, and then most importantly, the purpose behind why that training even exists in the first place.
100%, man. I remember when I was first learning how to pump, and it was back in my previous department, and it was stressful because the person who was teaching me, he was like a militaristic style, and he believed in yelling. He believed in stressing people out. And I remember I was just having a hell of a time doing it. And he's yelling at me, and he said to me, why is it every time I yell at you, you vapor lock? And I just like, I thought that was such an odd question because you already answered it. Like, you're yelling at me, so I'm locking up. Like, because I don't know what I'm doing, and you're screaming in my ear. And when I said that to him, I said, well, because you're yelling at me, and so I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm forgetting the steps. And he's like, well, that's how it's going to be when you're at an actual fire. People are going to be yelling at you, so I'm training you to be prepared for the yelling and for the screaming, because that's what's going to happen. If you don't get the water fast enough, they're going to yell at you for it. So I'm yelling at you to do this, and flipping that all up. And that's all I remembered from that class was this man screaming at and yelling at me, because that's how it's going to be in the fire service when you actually go and pump on a real fire. Yeah, there's going to be yelling. Yeah, there's going to be stress levels. But at the same time, there's not going to be this person right here saying how much you suck. You know, like, if there's a situation, and that's what I love about you and the department I'm on. It's like, if I'm struggling, you're going to come up to me and go, dude, what is the problem? Now, you might have to be strict and you might have to be forceful with me and go, hey, why don't we have water yet? But at the same time, you're not going to be like, I'm yelling at you because I want you to be prepared. You know, like, it doesn't make any sense. People die. If they die, it's your problem. So it's just literally like that. And that's the biggest thing. One of the biggest things I remember when I was pumping was that, honestly, even when I was driving for that department, I hated driving. I hated it 100%, because that person was sitting in the right seat next to me, and all he ever did was bitch about my driving. You're taking turns too wide, you're taking turns too narrow, you're going too fast, you're going too slow. He just didn't like it. He would just constantly shit all over everything. So what do I want to do? I don't want to drive. I'd rather just sit in the back seat, because it was just a horrible environment.
That's
because, again, mentoring.
Yeah, I've been there.
Right. It's that stress environment. It's that training scar. And I think from what I've seen now, especially on our department and other departments too, that they understand, like, stress inoculation has to be done at the right time.
Yeah.
And you can't just, if someone's never worn a mask before and you make them put on a mask and you yell at them because they didn't put it on right, well, now they're going to remember that one instant that guy, Lieutenant Thalheimer, yelled at me because I didn't put my mask on. I've never done it before.
The training loses its intended purpose.
Absolutely.
That's the biggest thing. It's hey, what's the skill am I looking to accomplish, and what's the best median to make that happen? So that's really what you need to be asking yourself as an instructor. And that's one of my favorite parts about teaching too, is you really need to cater how you're teaching the subject based off of, like, who your audience is. I'm not perfect, right? I'm like, I've messed this one up, but it's like, sometimes, like, hey, like, this guy responds really well to a militaristic, rigid approach, so that's how I'm going to do it. This person really needs to be, like, catered and nurtured and positive reinforcement. And to be able to shift based off of who you are, like, I think it makes a great instructor. Yeah, I think it's a really important skill. Instructors have to be fluid. Instructors have to be able to move around mentally, to be able to accommodate. Back in the day, the students have to accommodate for us. Like, they have to. You have to get it or you're out. And honestly, it sucks to say, but we're also not in that world anymore either. Like, we need people, right? Like, we need them. So, like, if we just keep booting people out because they're slow at getting it, well, we're not going to get anybody. And then they could be some really good people. You just have to be able to reach them. And I oh my goodness, I wish I could remember. I was listening to a podcast, and I might have been the Weekly Scrap, and I can't remember who was talking, but they were talking about how there was a person who they were trying to reach. He just wasn't getting for training, but he introduced music. And this kid he really took the music really well. He remembered all the stuff, all the lyric and everything else, but it motivated and helped them to concentrate, helped them to move. And so they introduced that into the training, and the kid performed really well. That's like Dead Poet Society,
right
there.
It really is.
Yeah, that's crazy.
There's certain things that can actually reach people, which is actually pretty cool. And, like, you have to be able, I think, as an instructor, you have to be able to read people. Yeah. And if you are just cookie cutter, black and white, and this is the way or the highway, you're not really gonna make it as an instructor. Yeah. You can literally be the most badass firefighter, and you can, like, do all this cool ass shit. But if you can't teach someone how to do what you're doing, then, I mean, I think you lose that credibility as be able to mentor and nurture the younger generation. It's a different skill set for sure. Absolutely. Sometimes people get really caught up on, like, oh, hey, this guy really knows it really well. But it's like, yeah, well, can he communicate it really well though? That's a hard part. Just breaking it down and building it back up. Yeah, communicate how to do it.
So, everyone's always learning and developing and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, I'd say it's a really critical skill for any kind of instructor or like just, senior member or whatever. If you're not good at it now, like you need to go out and practice that and figure out how you want to change. Because if you're able to communicate your message and pass on the knowledge that you have, your value in the organization just went up tenfold.
So, we touched on the fact that you went to Lieutenant Joey D. You and I went to that. And what did you get out of that? For like, we talk about instructing, we talk about mentoring, we talk about bringing knowledge back. It was a great week. I mean, it was fantastic. We got to network so much. We got to take away a lot of good points. What were some things that you took away from Lieutenant Joey?
I want to be a rescue fireman. No, I did. It was all I did all like tech rescue stuff. They did the tower rescue, high angle rescue, confined space, and heavy lifting and jacking. And yeah, I just did that because it's all stuff I don't normally get to.
Yeah.
We don't do a lot of those types of incidents like at all. We occasionally do training in it or whatever. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to go do this with people that do that all the time. So no, that was it was really good. Networking. It was. The Joey D weekend is just an incredible weekend. Any one of the New England area, like you're looking for a first fire conference to go to, highly recommend the Joey D weekend. It's absolutely incredible. They bring in like amazing instructors from all around the country to come in. Every subject under the earth they cover. Because it's just such a big conference, and it's not that far away from New Hampshire.
Not at all.
Like we drove down, just stayed in a hotel, and we were able to just have our own car and everything, and that's really convenient to have it within driving distance. But yeah, I'm pretty confident you could go there every single year of your career and not get bored with the different classes. They got truck company operations at commercial structures, truck company operations at residential structures, taxpayer fires. Basic hose advancement, they had like 4 different options for different styles of forcible entry. Like it's just crazy all the things that they cover, and and then I was over on a tower rappelling and picking people off of scaffolding, and that was really cool.
Yeah, that was awesome. I saw your pictures and I thought that was fantastic what you were doing, and you even mentioned it too. Like we're talking about what you got out of it. And I'm like, I got some refreshers, but, I didn't seem too challenging in some of the things I was doing. And you said, well, you probably should do something different. Do some of the stuff you've never done before.
Do something you don't normally do.
And you're absolutely right. And you hit on that. And then now, like next time I go, like you said, you could probably go every year out of your career and probably get something new. And that's my goal is that next year, hopefully I can go, is I will definitely take a different track and learn something new. And every year I'll learn something new and take a different track. And I think that's a great way to look at it. And I really enjoyed everybody that had something to give there, even the students. And there was a lot of good, knowledgeable people there. And I can't say enough, like just the networking alone. We met Sean Bain.
Yeah, Bean.
Sean Bean.
Yeah, I think of the name.
That kid is top notch.
Yeah.
And like the what he gave back, he was a lot of fun. The firehouses there in upstate New York is crazy.
Oh, that was really fun. That's probably like I was focused talking to you more about the education side of things, but like, yeah, probably the highlight.
The highlight was definitely
any fire conference you go to. The highlight is just getting to network with people because you learn so much. Like you probably learn more about being a firefighter in the bar than you do in the actual class. Just because, like before we left,
the 2 gentlemen that we met
that
are on FDNY.
Yeah,
can't remember their names, and it's gonna kill me because I wasn't prepared to talk about them, but. Those 2 gentlemen who were just sitting at the bar. They weren't even
tired FDNY guys,
and they weren't even there for Joey D. Yeah. They weren't even there for the conference, and they literally just go, "You guys must be firefighters." And we said, "Yes, sir, we are." And they just giving us all the history of all the jobs that they have.
And it's so funny.
It was funny, but also so educational.
They were hammered.
But they had so much to give though, and they were so real. And I loved every minute of talking with them.
It was like it's like that kind of life advice is so important, and that's why honestly, like people need to go to line of duty deaths too, like line of duty death funerals. I think that's something that people don't put enough emphasis on, generally speaking, because it makes you a better firefighter. It really does. Taking the time to go, and it's really important to not just honor our fallen brother and sister and being part of the Sea of Blue and the lineup, but it causes you to do a lot of self-reflection, as you're standing there at attention and, I don't know what it is, but it seems like it's always snowing out and snow's coming down on your face or whatever. And the fire engine goes by with a pine box in the back and the casket with the American flag on it. And you're thinking about how that guy ended up there. And you're like, holy crap, that could be me. And then you see the family go by and you realize the human impact that this event caused onto this family. And then you watch this guy's brothers and sisters, some of them that are still bandaged up from the fire, carry the casket into the church. And it really makes you think like, hey, how can I be better? How can I make sure that it's not my family riding in the car behind the fire engine? How do you make sure it's not my crew carrying the casket into there? And it makes you want to train harder, makes you want to be better, makes you want to be smarter. And then you go out afterwards and you get some really good networking. But usually the people that go to those events, they're firemen.
Yeah.
And they like talking about being firemen.
Yep.
And you learn so much just talking around from people different. Like I've done, I heard one of the funniest pieces of advice and best pieces of advice I've ever gotten from a DC fireman down in Pennsylvania. He looked at me and he was like, what people takes to put out fire? I was like, I don't know. Like, depends on how big. He goes, takes 6 people to put out a fire. Doesn't matter how many alarms you get called. Okay, so in your job, in your career, is to be one of the 6. And I was like, damn. Okay.
Okay.
Like, that was like
10-4.
solid, like, just really, like, you had to be there. But it was some really just solid advice in the moment. And, and it was just at a random bar in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I love it. You're absolutely right though. It's sombering and it sounds kind of morbid when we talk about it, but it is super important that we do honor those members if you're able to go to those events.
It makes you better.
It does make you better. It helps tremendously to put things into perspective so you know where you came from, you know what you're training for, you don't want to repeat the same mistakes. And sometimes obviously it's not their fault, like usually it's not, it's just circumstances that are beyond their control. That bad situation happens.
Yeah.
Right? It's a bad moment, but we are brothers and sisters that we are, no matter what state, no matter your call, your volunteer, your career, we're all brothers and sisters. We're all doing the same job, and we should always honor the fallen.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention that too. Is like there's also like the esprit de corps of it and all that kind of stuff. And if you go down with a group of people, like there's a certain amount of bonding that happens and all that, and that's also important. And I'm not saying for anyone listening or whatever, like I'm not sitting here saying like when I talk about line of duty, that's and stuff to money more to quarterback and
absolutely
that would never be. I think I don't look at it as that would never be me. I look at it a lot of times as holy crap, that could be me.
Absolutely.
And how do I make sure it's not me?
That's why we study those
reports.
Learn
on my behalf.
That's why we study reports, right? We're studying those NIOSH reports. It's not because we're Monday quarterbacking. We're literally studying those reports because it's important to understand what they went through, how this tragic event happened, and how could we either prevent it or make sure it doesn't happen with anybody else. And that's why, again, as instructors and anybody to understand, like we have to teach that and we have to remember it. And whether you're a probie or whether you're a 20-year dude, like it's important to understand where you came from, where these situations came from. We're honoring the past, we're honoring the fallen. And again, it's not to shit over anybody else who they didn't do a bad job. Something bad happened and we have to honor them by educating ourselves. Same thing you said, like Black Sunday, like that was a tragic, bad, horrible day.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a day that is always a people talk about because it's so educational as well. And it
literally changed it, like the next generation changed it.
100%. And that we learned bailout systems, like how important are those now, right? Now that's what a big part of the JOD conference is. That money goes to departments that don't have those bailout systems. Mm-hmm. So the funds don't just go to pay for elaborate instructors or elaborate hotels or that. They're literally going back to people who need it. and people who need those bailout systems. And they talk about the stories that other departments benefited from getting those bailout kits. And that's giving back. It's not shitting on anybody. It's not Monday quarterbacking. And I think that's what has been great with the moving forward of the fire service is we're constantly are giving back by educating ourselves and making sure that we're not forgetting that past. I agree with you 100%. Like it's important to do.
Yeah, and all these trainings, I just thought of an interesting point I wanted to bring up too is, when you talk about training and you're going all these things and bailouts and you hear people talk about it all the time, like, oh, dude, like we never do this or this is never going to happen to me, right? But there was a really, I think it was like Coffee or Die magazine, like whatever Black Rifle coffee company's magazine. They had a really interesting piece on a guy that I wasn't sure if he passed away or retired. I think he passed away, but he was a Boston Rescue 2 fireman. And it was, or he retired. So they interviewed him, and it was funny. He was talking about his crazy career on Rescue 2. And you know what he talked about? 5 calls. 5 calls is what he talked about. So it's like this guy went through an entire career to at the end, it came down to 5 calls. So the question that you need to ask yourself isn't, hey, am I ever going to do this? It's more of like, hey, is this going to be one of the things that I need to train for, one of my 5 calls at the end of my career? Because I'm sure you could, you've been on the job for a while now. I'm sure you can think back about your career, and you've probably been on at least a couple of your calls.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's funny you say, because Robert Maris says it, and he says, the shit that never happens always happens. And that nails it right there. Exactly what you're talking about. The shit that never happens always happens. And it's not going to be 10 calls in a row like that. It's like you said, like 5 calls.
You're going to get 5 calls in your career.
3 calls.
They're going to define your career.
Changing.
Yeah.
And how did you prepare for that? Or how did you cope with that? What did you learn from it? And those are those humbling things. We talk about being humble and humility, and man, like there's certain situations, like if you're not prepared, it's going to humble you quick. And that's why we preach about training, and we preach about educating ourselves and being prepared. And actually one of our most newer hires, he was just talking to me about the book Search, and he's very into it. He's been reading like it's the gospel.
That's awesome.
And it's fantastic. He texts me all the time. He hasn't started yet with us. He just got hired. And he is all about it. And he texts me all these quotes. He's asking me information about it. And I literally been giving those same answers right back. We have to be prepared, because he was just asking about questions about, preparing for the things that never happen. Like you have to always be in that mindset of being ready, because there's going to be that day where you just think it's another simple fire alarm activation, or bread and butter, the one that comes in all the time, and you're not prepared, and boom, the bad shit happens.
That exact call, happened to me. It was actually pretty cool. I was there. It was a little bit into the incident, but I do distinctly remember thinking to myself, I was like, oh, I looked around. I was like, this is going to be one of my 5 calls.
There you go.
And so I didn't go to rehab, and I worked the entire time, because I knew it was just like, this is a once in a career call. I'm going to soak up every second of it.
Yeah. And that's the story, right? Yeah. Like those are things you can tell your grandkids about. Like it's going to be one of those 5 stories. You've had 30 years on the job. It's going to be one of those 5 stories. And I love listening to those stories. Those are some of the favorite stories I get to listen to from one of the most seasoned people. Like I have had the luxury of having my father-in-law being on a job for 28 years, and his father had been on a job for 50 years. And they would always tell me all these stories. A lot of times they're always the same story, but those were like their 5 stories, right? Those are like top 5 or top 10. And I never once said, you already told me that. No, I want to hear more about it. Because sometimes there's extra information that they might have left out from the last time.
Because there's it's like you'll hear some people complain about here's this guy talking about this story, but like those are some of my favorite learning events, like those coffee table, firehouse conversations where you just like you just listen to the stories, and there's so many lessons learned there. One of my favorite chiefs to listen to is Chief Ronald Fitzpatrick. Like he'll tell some stories or whatever, and I'm always listening. And there's some good learning lessons in some of the stories he tells. And I think that's so critical, because you're not going to experience everything But, I'll tell you what, though, is based off of those stories, like I've been in scenarios, like one of our retired guys used to talk about basement fires all the time. And he talked about like, on his knees and, feeling like the carpet and like feeling heat in his knees and stuff like that. Like I've been on incidents where all of a sudden I'm feeling that. I'm like, oh, hey, like, boom, I'm already back at that coffee table, and applying his advice based off of that conversation. And that's the power of the senior man of the firehouse. That's the power of back to the whole mentorship thing. It's really important that you don't hoard that knowledge. You need to pass it on. So
100%. You nailed it. And you mentioned Chief Sebastian. He's probably my time spent on Derry has been fantastic. And he's been one of those people that we talk about humble, people in humility. Like he's definitely been one of those people that he is super humble, wears his heart on his sleeve in a way, like where it's just, he's there for you. And it's rare sometimes to see people who are so about their members, about their crew and integrity and making sure they're doing the right thing and making sure that they're safe and protected. And it's for me, joining Derry has been that big shift of like, wow, people do care. Your chiefs do care. Your officers do care. And it's incredible that we have great mentors on our department that actually show how much they care and they want you to learn and to succeed. And you and all the other officers that are there, like, are tremendous. It's a great young department. It's a great young team. And it's been really, really cool to see everybody grow and flourish.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what the future holds. It's going to be pretty wild.
So now, is there anything, actually, you know what, before we start wrapping up, talk about working out, talk about physical fitness. You have really been into physical fitness. Like you do a lot of workouts when you're on shift. I had the luxury of doing a workout with you and Fung, and you guys get after it. And you also just don't stop at the station, but you go home and you have your own gym that you've built at home. And I've seen that you've actually promoted your son to get in it with you as well. Like he sees you working out and he's down in the basement with you, getting in some reps.
That's all him. He's a little stud.
But
Comes from good stock.
You've been doing a great job with promoting that. And it's such a, again, being a mentor, we got to make sure we're focusing on family as well. And the fact that you're bringing it back home, like, you're working out, but you're not just shutting the door and saying, I need my time and it's my workout time and leave me alone. Like the kids are down there with you. You're involving them. They're having fun. You're having fun with them. So does he come downstairs with you when you're doing the workouts, or like he's just there? Plus your kid's name is super cool, like Duke.
Yeah.
Like how cool can that be? I wish I was named Duke.
Yeah, I got Duke and Bodie, but Bodie he's a potato still. But yeah, no, I guess starting off with the kids thing here is a lot of that just kind of like naturally happened. When I'm home, I really try to focus on the family life type stuff. And so he's just he's my little buddy.
Mm-hmm.
He just follows me around. We do everything together. It doesn't matter what room I'm in. He comes right along. He loves hanging out with Dad. I'm 90% certain that he thinks I'm on the pop. Pretty sure he's pretty confident that I work for Ryder. But yeah, anyway, so we do everything together. So he sees me go downstairs, he goes downstairs, and he used to just hang out where I usually put on a movie or whatever, because then, he can watch that while I'm getting my workout in. And then he just one day just started wanting to work out with me. And so, just today I was down there as I was doing some pull-ups and stuff. And, it's funny is I go up and I do a set. And then he comes right in and he goes, I'm like, Dad, Duke's turn? And I gotta lift him up and, let him go. And he finishes and we go back and forth. And, it was like that with all the exercises. And I got a set of Olympic rings down there. And if I'm doing something that he's not really interested in, like squatting or something like that, he'll just hold on to the Olympic rings. Like this, I'm excited to see what this kid's back looks like, and like in 5.
He's gonna get yoked.
Yeah, because this guy's gonna be able to do what's that, the Iron Cross?
Yeah,
like in no time.
That's so cool. But then I mean, again, it's just doing the right thing. It's motivating them as a young age, and they remember that and the bonding experience, and I think it ties in also with the firehouse that you're bringing that environment to the firehouse as well. When you're on shift, it's a bonding event, right? Like we're working out with the guys, you're bonding, you're having
with the boys,
right? When we worked out, that was a big bonding event. That was a lot of fun. I was it was fun. It wasn't a chore to work out.
I think
Some people do. Not saying in general that there's people out there that working out is a chore. Working out on shift can be a chore, but if you're motivated the right way, if you're making it fun, it's a group effort. We all love a challenge. We all love competing against each other, and you guys made it fun. I had a blast. I was telling my wife, I'm like, I was keeping up with the kids
yeah.
when I was working out with them. And of course I paid for it a couple of days later, just feeling the soreness, but,
I had guys text me like 4 days later and they're like, dude, I'm still sore.
but I love that.
Yeah.
It's so great that that's what's fun about it. That's that brotherhood, that sisterhood of doing that together. I think working out and having those shift workouts brings people together. It shows people what they're capable of, but it's also not calling people out if you're struggling on a rep or, you can't push through the last push of that sled,
That's not the purpose. I've been really fortunate. Like my guys, they're studs. They're amazing.
You lead a really good shift.
These guys are incredible. I love my people. I love these guys to death. I can't put it in a word. But no, when we first got together with them, laying out shift expectations and give them a sheet, it was like item like 3 on my list. Right? Is like, hey, we're gonna get 1% better every shift. So that's that's going to be, mentally, physically, and spiritually, 1%, everything. We need to get better somehow. I don't care what it looks like, but we're going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to have a compounding effect as we go out throughout the year. And so it was like with the physical fitness, it just, it was like, I don't care what it looks like, but we're going to get in the gym. And so it just so happens, like some really good personalities. I mean, like this guy's looking to go get a new girlfriend. So he wants to get, in shape, like, you got this other guy, he was looking to cut weight, and then you got, me over here. I just want to be a fireman. And so it doesn't matter what our motivations were. It just came together really well and like you said, it just eventually evolved into this, like, next thing you know, we're trying to outlift each other, stuff like this, lifting boards, stuff like that. Yeah, it's been really good. It's been a really fun culture to develop and see grow to the point where, like, I'm so proud of these guys. They're going to other shifts and they're whipping these other guys into shape.
Yeah,
and that's so cool to see.
Yeah, I love it. I think you guys have really sparked that change.
Yeah.
And again, if you make workouts a chore, like it has to be done, then no one's going to want to do it.
For me, it's like, no, we are going to get better today. I don't want to, because like there's so many people that get opinionated about how it should look or you should do this or that. And it's like, I just want you to do what works for you. And I don't care if you're, lifting a 30-pound dumbbell or, if you want to overhead press, 155 pounds. Like, I really don't care. And, but we're going to do something. We'll adjust the weight based off of who's lifting. We'll work together. Like, oh, we're, hey, you can only bench, like 185. Well, cool. I guess what? I'm just going to do more reps, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to work together on that. So
you're talking about working out. Another hot topic is always working out in your gear. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, that's controversial.
Yeah.
So,
not to put you on the spot, like,
yeah,
but
I see, like, I have a soft spot in me for the cancer initiatives and stuff like that, and the desire to want to not prolong exposure in gear. But I also have a strong sense that at some point, you kind of got to do your job and understand and accept the risks of the occupation. So do I support the initiatives to, hey, we need to change how we're looking at our gear and try to figure out how we can prevent occupational cancer? Absolutely. But I also think that we have an obligation to the community that we serve to be prepared to function within our gear. So, and, when someone calls a fire truck, expect a fireman, they expect firemen to show up. And so I that's my personal view on it. I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm not saying that it's the best view. That's just kind of how I look at it. Is if I were paying for my services and I call firemen to my house, like, I want studs getting off the truck that are comfortable in their gear, that understand their limitations and are able to function on the fire ground for a long time physically.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can't train to that expectation by not wearing it, like not actually working and training in that gear. And you can limit that time in it. Like we do, a lot of departments, and we do as well duration testing. We have to do our physical yearly test in our gear. But I'm not saying train out in your gear every day if that's not the case, but at least kind of change up your workouts. Like I love to work out in my gear, but I usually won't wear shorts. I'll wear pants. I'll wear a long shirt. Trying different methods to limit that exposure, right? And a lot of people I've read that try wearing a station pants and a long sleeve shirt, shower immediately afterwards, things like that to help limit that exposure, to help take care of that.
Yeah, and it's a balance. Like if you can follow like some of the social media influencers out there that are like train your gear, brother, and like they're out there and they're pushing like good, like for the right reason, right? They want firefighters to be in shape, and there is a difference between working out and working out in gear. Like if you think you're in shape, try going doing a workout in your gear. You'll get humbled pretty quick.
Absolutely.
And so I think it is important to experience that at least once in a while. Like we do what we call prison workouts on our shifts, where we haven't been consistent. Like there was a while where we were doing every shift, but it kind of gated back. But it was just like there was a circuit of just like simple workout stuff, like sled pushes, pulls, walking upstairs with a sandbag, like really simple things. But you just go until the last guy runs out of air, and that's your gauge for your time. So if the last guy is lasting for 35 minutes, you're doing 35 minute workout, and that's how it's going to go. So it's good, and I've seen the effects of us doing that directly apply on the fire ground and make it so we were able to function for longer, faster, better, higher performing out of fire ground. And I think it's really important.
Yeah. And you nailed it too. Like, right. It's for the community that we serve. Like we're doing this to be better on the fire ground, to help the people in need that call us and depend on us.
But it's a balancing act,
it is
right?
Balance. Yep.
It's like, not recognize the fact that there is an innate hazard, and you just need to be conscious and understand that if I'm going to choose to do this, like here's the risk, and are you willing to accept that? But like I said, it's at some point it comes down to it's kind of my job.
Yep, I agree 100%.
So
that is our job to put that on and work in it.
Yeah,
that's the name of the game.
Yeah,
Firefighters.
What I signed up.
So as we're winding down here, we have some trainings coming up. I was going to ask you about kind of what's on the scope for conferences, but I know one that we're going to be going to.
Yeah, we're going to go to FDIC.
FDIC.
Be a good time.
That I'm looking forward to that, and we get to travel to another conference together, which is going to be really exciting. Are you going to the Northeastern Summit? Are you attending that this year?
Yeah, I'm planning on it. I should probably actually get around to buying my ticket. But yeah, I'm at least going to do a day, because I did a day last year and it was really good. I got a lot out of it. I originally wanted to sign up for the leadership track, and that was full, and ended up the tactical track, and did not regret it.
That's fantastic.
The tactical track was really awesome last year. So I'm planning on going up there again this year.
So the New England Fools, they're putting on the Northeastern Fire Summit in Wells, Maine. That's going to be starting March 14th through the 16th. So if you haven't reserved your tickets, please do so, because it will probably most likely sell out. And that's what we're referring to is the fight conference. I'll be up there doing my content up there. We just did a recording with Rusty Ricker, the president of New England Fools, and he talked about that in great detail. So be cool if you make it up there. And then we have FDIC coming up in April. Anything else on the?
Nothing official, but getting involved.
Nothing that your wife knows of yet.
Yeah. Gotta get it approved by the War Department. But no, no, not nothing super official yet, but yeah, no, I on a couple things would like to help out and teach at a couple of different things as well. So trying to get involved and whatnot.
That's great. Love to hear it. Anything else before we wind up there, sir?
No, just thank you for having me. I really, really like and love this platform that you've been doing. You're bringing a lot to the New Hampshire Fire Service, and most importantly, you're doing it for the right reasons. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I thank you for motivating me, inspiring me, You've been fantastic to work with. It's been a long time coming to get Will on here. We've been trying to coordinate for quite some time.
Supposed to be guest number 2. Stupid.
I had my whole list laid out and it just didn't happen, man. But I'm glad we got it going. I'm glad we got on here. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. Will Thalheimer from the Derry Fire Department. He's a lieutenant there. He is a wealth of knowledge. If you ever have any questions about what he's doing or information that he talks about, he is on social media. You can reach out to him if you want, and try to pick his brain on certain events or certain topics, or if you want to look up his articles, they're still out there on fire engineering. Again, the Northeastern Fire Summit that's sponsored by the New England Fools will be in Wells, Maine. We also have the FDIC that's coming up in April. If anyone's attending, don't be hesitant to see me and talk to me and reach out. Will be there with me as well, with another crew member that we have as well. Be happy to talk to you, and I'll have some slaps and maybe some other swag available when we go to FDIC. So please, by all means, reach out to me if you have any questions. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the C.A.N Report. Y'all be safe. Nozzle Tov.